The law of hunger strike, forced medical care or a test of democracy? It was night time. The lights were low at Jantar Mantar, but the flash of cameras suddenly turned bright. A weak body was sitting on the stage, and the people standing around understood that now the story was not just about the protest, it was caught between life and the law. A short while later, the same question spread across the entire country. If a citizen stops eating while demanding answers from the government, what should the state do? Let them speak, stop them, take them to the hospital, or start deciding on their body? Right from here, Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike turns into a major constitutional question. From the outside, it looks like an activist health emergency, but from the inside, it is the most difficult test of democracy. Because the question is not just whether the government provided medical treatment or not. The real question is, can the government protect someone's voice while saving their life, or will it have to choose between the two? Sonam Wangchuk's name has often been associated with Ladakh, climate innovation and education reforms. But this time he was sitting at Delhi's Jantar Mantar to place questions related to the young generation and competitive exams before the country. His hunger strike kept getting longer, his body kept getting weaker, and the silence on the demands kept growing heavier. On one side was the restlessness of the students, on the other side was the silence of the government, and in between was a body that was slowly becoming a warning sign. The Delhi High Court told the authorities that there should be daily monitoring of Wangchuk's health and medical help should be provided if needed. The court described life as precious, but the biggest tension lay hidden behind this very sentence. Then reports came that he was taken to Safdarjung Hospital. The police said that this happened based on medical advice and court directions, while supporters called it against his will. Reuters wrote that this happened on the 21st day of the hunger strike. Looking from the outside, the question seems simple. If someone's health is deteriorating, they should be taken to the hospital. But in law, the thing that looks simple is often what opens up the most dangerous corner. Because a hunger strike is not just a decision to not eat food. It is an attempt to turn the body into a message. When words seem ignored, the individual turns their weakness into a public statement. But the body does not understand symbolism. After many days of fasting, the risk of dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, low potassium and organ complications can increase. The protest may be moral, but the body runs only by biological rules. Right here, the government's dilemma begins. If the state does nothing and the person dies, the question will arise as to why the government did not save the life. But if the state steps too far forward, the question will arise whether it suppressed dissent by turning it into a medical emergency. The Constitution of India opens the first door to this story. Article 19 gives citizens the right to speech and peaceful assembly, meaning peaceful protest is a part of democratic expression. But this right is not unlimited. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed for public order, safety, traffic, health, and the rights of others. This is the reason why protest is protected, but not everywhere, in every manner, under all conditions. Therefore, every hunger strike is not illegal. If a person is sitting peacefully and placing their demand, not inciting the crowd to violence and not collapsing public order, then merely performing a hunger strike cannot be considered a crime. Yes, if the protest blocks roads, cuts off hospital access, creates a risk of violence, breaks a valid police order, or the crowd begins to get out of control, then the administration can intervene. But the reason for intervention must be documented. The right to arrest also exists, but it cannot be arbitrary. Merely criticizing the government or demanding an answer from a minister does not become a reason for arrest. The law always requires specific grounds, not just discomfort. Right here, another dangerous confusion arises. Can a hunger strike be considered a suicide attempt? This question is not new, but after the new criminal laws, its answer has become more layered than before. In the old IPC, Section 309 punished attempted suicide. For a long time, this provision remained criticized because giving punishment to a person in distress was not considered humane. Then the Mental Health Law changed the approach. Section 115 of the Mental Health Care Act, 2017, says that a person who attempts suicide shall be presumed to be under severe stress, and it will be the government's duty to provide care, treatment and rehabilitation. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita did not keep a general offence like the old IPC Section 309, but Section 226 creates a narrow situation. If a suicide attempt is with the intent to prevent or compel a public servant from doing their duty, then punishment is possible. But this is the most important point. Every hunger strike is not automatically a suicide attempt, and every political fast does not automatically fall under Section 226. The law has to look at the intention, facts, and surrounding circumstances. A person can say, "I will not eat food so that my voice is heard." This can be a democratic protest. But if the facts show that the objective was to prevent a public servant from performing a lawful duty, then the legal lens can change. Therefore, the hardest task for the court and the police is not applying a label but understanding the facts. What was the protester's declared demand? Was he mentally alert? Did he understand the treatment and reject it? Was there an immediate death risk? This very thing makes cases like Sonam Wangchuk's emotionally charged. Supporters consider it a democratic voice. The state can view it as a health risk and an order issue. But the law does not consider either emotion to be the complete truth. The second major pillar is Article 21. It gives the guarantee of life and personal liberty, meaning it is the state's duty to save life, but the individual's dignity and autonomy are also considered connected to the very soul of that article. Right here, the real contradiction begins. Article 21 tells the government to save the citizen's life. The same Article 21 also reminds that the question of an individual's dignity, choice and personal liberty over their body is not light. In medical law and ethics, the general rule is of consent. A competent adult has the right to accept or refuse treatment. A doctor can explain, can warn, can monitor, but cannot consider the body to be merely state property. But the picture can change in an emergency. If the person becomes unconscious, loses the capacity to take a decision, is in confusion, or there is an immediate life-threatening condition, then doctors can provide life-saving treatment. Then the question of consent is viewed differently in a practical emergency. Meaning, the answer to forced treatment is not a simple yes or no. The question is, was the person capable of making a decision or not? How immediate was the danger? Was a less intrusive option available? And was the medical step meant to end the protest or to save the life? Forced feeding or tube feeding comes under the most serious steps. It involves not just nutrition, but the boundary of bodily autonomy, dignity and consent. Therefore, it cannot become an administrative shortcut. If the hunger striker is mentally fit, understands the risk and refuses treatment, then the doctor's primary role is persuasion, counseling and monitoring. He should not give treatment by scaring or punishing the protester. But if the same person becomes unconscious, potassium drops dangerously, organs begin to fail and he is not in a condition to give an informed decision, then the state and the doctors cannot stand with their hands tied. From right there the emergency duty activates. The direction of the Delhi High Court also appeared to touch this very balance. The court spoke of daily clinical monitoring and necessary medical intervention so that life remains saved in deteriorating health. But a court direction cannot be considered a blank check. The court showed the urgency of saving life, but this does not mean that an unlimited authority to silence the protest was granted. A difference remains between medical necessity and political convenience. Taking someone to the hospital and force feeding are also not the same thing. Hospitalization can be for monitoring, tests and emergency preparedness. Force feeding is a direct intrusion into the body, so its threshold must be very high. If the police shift a fasting protester to the hospital, they must keep the reason clear. What did the medical report say? What was in the court order? Did the family receive a notice or not? What did the protester say? These details build or break trust. Therefore, transparency is very necessary in such cases. Access for the family, lawyer and independent doctors, medical records, consent notes and court supervision. All these are not just formalities. This is exactly what tells the public whether the state is a caretaker or a controller. On the other side, this moment is not easy for the protesters either. A hunger strike creates moral pressure, but as the body weakens, questions can also be raised on the clarity of decision-making. The movement needs a voice, not the compulsion of martyrdom. The government's first responsibility should always be dialogue. If the demand is connected to a genuine public concern, like exams, youth anxiety and accountability, then silence becomes the most costly response. Silence often makes the protest more extreme. In a democracy, considering a hunger strike to be merely a law and order problem is an incomplete perspective. It is a signal that normal channels are feeling like a failure. When a citizen gives up food, they are saying that the path to a hearing feels closed. The strength of a hunger strike comes from right here. It does not throw stones, it does not burn roads, yet it makes the system restless. Because in this, the individual questions power by harming themselves. This restlessness is even deeper in issues like education and competitive exams. A leaked paper, a cancelled exam, a delayed result can raise a question on the hard work of many families over years. For a youth, an exam is not just a paper. It is the home's hope, the father's savings, the mother's blessing, and the path to one's identity. When trust breaks in that system, the protest becomes emotional. The administration views the same scene from a different angle. It sees crowd size, security, traffic, emergency access, and possible escalation. The state's job is also not easy, but difficulty does not become a license for arbitrary power. The protester turns their body into the last democratic instrument. The state views them as a vulnerable citizen. There is some truth in both views, and a thin line of law remains drawn between the two. But romanticizing a hunger strike is also dangerous. Prolonged fasting quietly damages the body. The crowd outside can give slogans, but inside, the heart rhythm, kidneys, electrolytes, and brain chemistry struggle silently. Doctors are the most difficult characters in this story. They are neither the spokespersons of the movement nor an extension of the police. Their first duty is the patient's life, dignity, and medical interest. When a doctor is turned into a tool under political pressure, public trust breaks. And when the protester begins to consider doctors as enemies, life-saving communication also collapses. That is why it is not enough for the medical team to appear neutral. Being neutral is also necessary. Explaining consent, recording risks, providing alternatives, and involving the family, all these things become bigger than the protest. And if the government only wants to solve political discomfort through a medical route, it will be a dangerous signal for democracy. The purpose of medical care must be to save life, not to get the protest ended. That is why the best practice is that everything remains documented. Which doctor came, what were the vitals, what warning was given, what answer did the protester give, on what legal basis did the police come, all this is a part of public confidence. An independent medical board can help here. Court-monitored reports can help. A safe medical tent at the protest site can help. Giving regular information to the family and the lawyer can also reduce tension. The matter of arrest is also connected to this balance. The police can take action in public order, a valid prohibitory order, violence risk, obstruction, or immediate danger to life, but making the placing of a demand a crime will go against the constitutional spirit. Provisions like BNS Section 226 will also have to be used very carefully. If a case is made by describing every hunger strike as pressure on a public servant, the moral space for peaceful protest can shrink. Courts generally look at whether less harsh measures were available. Was there a dialogue? Was medical monitoring enough? Was shifting necessary? Was the force proportionate? And did the person's dignity remain preserved? A mature democratic response can be one where the protesters' demand is heard, health remains monitored, the site remains safe, and the police become the last resort. But for this, the government has to show empathy before ego.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible, but in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.